Anyway, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic here. Sadly, it's not James Bond. It's Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
So,
Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
does
So,
whatever a spider can.
yes. So, our little boy, Tom Holland, he's growing up before our eyes. He came on and did an interview, I guess taking a break from filming or whatever, because they are still filming Spider-Man 3. For now, that's the title. The title Home, or the word Home, will be in there somewhere. I like Spider-Man Home Alone. That would be funny. Especially since it's set during Christmas time. I would love that.
Yeah, but if they do that, it needs to be a completely different type of movie. It just basically needs to be Tom Holland, not as Spider-Man, but just, MacGyvering ways to protect his home.
From the Sinister Six.
Right. Okay, you
Um,
know how they did like a Christmas Deadpool movie? They need to do that and then call it Spider-Man Home Alone and basically have it be like a Christmas movie that's set and all he does is he fights off the Sinister Six and ways of kind of going on with that. And then you can there's the perfect setup in there. There you go, Kevin Feige, Sony, whoever owns it right now. Make all the
Spider-Man.
money.
Spider-Man will be home for Christmas. So, anyway, let's get back on track. So Tom Holland came out this week and said his main quote was, "This Spider-Man film is the most ambitious superhero film ever done." Now, he didn't say this is the most ambitious Marvel film. He said this is the most ambitious superhero film. Now,
I think he just wrote or he wrote a check that his ass won't be able to cash.
probably. So, what do you think about that main sentence? The most, I mean, because we've been having a lot of comic book movies over the years. We've seen a lot of stuff, not only the Marvel universe, but the DC, but then even going back to like the Dark Knight, then going back to like the first X-Men, Unbreakable. I count that as a superhero film, even an original superhero film. And then you look at, like I said, the Avengers Infinity War, Endgame. This is going to be the most ambitious out of all, even more so than those.
Well, technically, yes, it can be, because just because you have ambition doesn't mean you actually succeed. So there's that. It might have all the ambition in the world, but fall flat on its face. So there's that. But I think if I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that their ambition will succeed, what I would say is that, we'll kind of talk about WandaVision in a second, but with the multiverse being kind of the next kind of theme of what they're going for in their next pile of movies or the next little bit of what's going on, they could bring in a bunch of stuff. So if they've already if WandaVision sets up, the multiverse and that stuff, and then Spider-Man can do the Spider-Verse, but one of the other characters that Spider-Man hangs out a lot with would be Wolverine and, the Fantastic Four. So if you bring them into that, along with the Spider-Verse movie, so if you have Fantastic Four, Wolverine, and the Spider-Verse, that would set the bar for ambition, because it's just trying to do so much. The problem is, whenever you do so much, that's typically when bad things happen.
But not only that, but you also look at like Civil War, Captain America Civil War. That was pretty ambitious of a film.
Right.
You brought in Spider-Man, you introduced a new Spider-Man. You brought in Black Panther, you had our heroes fighting against one another. That was a pretty ambitious film. And that was technically just a Captain America film.
Right.
So, when Tom Holland says, "Oh, it's the most ambitious superhero film," some people say he's mainly talking about, as a singular superhero, rather than like a team-up movie, like an Avengers movie, which, yeah, those are ambitious. But I can say, like I said, Captain America, X-Men Days of Future Past. That was it. That was time travel. I mean, they brought in the new characters, like the McAvoys and the Jennifer Lawrence and the Fassbender. But then you brought in Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry back, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, combined them together. That was I would almost say that has been one of the most ambitious films, even more so than maybe the Avengers recently. So, could we have that level of ambition?
Yeah, I mean, you can have a lot of ambition if you brought back, if you did a Spider-Verse film and you brought back Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and then you brought back, villains from them. You already have two.
Well, I mean, yeah,
So,
and let's talk about that. So, what we know so far, we have Jamie Foxx returning as Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which was in Andrew Garfield's universe.
yep.
And we have Alfred Molina, who played Dr. Octavius, Doc Ock, coming back from the Tobey Maguire universe. Those are the main confirmed people. There have been rumors of Tobey Maguire coming back, and Andrew Garfield returning, and Kirsten Dunst, and Emma Stone. But those are still rumors. But let's say they do come back. They all come back. And there's also been a rumor this week that William Dafoe has been shown on set, back as the Green Goblin. Now, when we say that's ambitious, because once again, don't forget, we've already had a Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, animated film, came out 2 years ago. That did open up the multiverse and showed other Spider-Men coming in and other villains. So, what do you think? Like, well, we already had it in an animated form, so what are you going to do differently in the live action?
Well, the problem that kind of comes to there is that if we actually include animated movies into our talk of most ambitious stuff, that means no live action movie can be ambitious anymore because animated movies have already done it. Like, Flashpoint, just to bring DC into the mix. Flashpoint, all the big kind of tent poles of DC and all their, like, big epic stuff, they've all been done in animated stuff. So, it's all been done, quote unquote, before. So it's ambitious for live action. It could be, bringing in the history, because animated movies and live action movies also kind of have their own life in them. Because, when you're talking about all this other stuff, it's not like, maybe they might bring in, Miles Morales from Into the Spider-Verse. They might bring that in somehow for like a cameo into the live action Spider-Man, but you generally think of animation and live action completely separate from each other. So, and in ambition, I don't know. I would say that for live action, if they bring in, in order to be ambitious, let me actually get this right in my words, it will not be ambitious if Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire don't come back. Hands down, it can't. It can't. I'm sorry, but that's the point. You've already brought back 2 villains from each of those universes. Why are you not bringing back the heroes? And if that's a limit on the fact of, they're too busy doing their other movies and that stuff, it's Disney. Throw enough money at the problem and you can fix anything. That's Disney's MO. And if they didn't, that means it's not. Because they didn't want to risk the money and throw the money at the problem to get it fixed. So, then it can't be the most ambitious. I know it sounds like splitting hairs, but this is a big statement that he made. If Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are not back, then, sorry, it's not ambitious enough.
Not even with Jamie Foxx and Alfred Molina?
Absolutely not. Because they're the characters. Like, they're the villains. They were only in one of those movies. They weren't the people in every single one of them. It makes no sense for us to talk about the most ambitious superhero film unless you're actually trying to do something ambitious. Bringing someone back as there doesn't sound ambitious. That's not ambitious to me. And, like, the only thing that you could say is if you were trying to set up, like, this is, somehow a villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe then said, I'm going to open up wormholes and I'm going to pull Doc Ock from the Sam Raimi verse. I'm going to pull Electro from the the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man stuff, and then do something like that. It's like, okay, that's not ambitious. That's a generic plot from someone else that you just happen to use, characters from other stuff for. You're making it bigger because it's a movie. You're not making it bigger plot-wise.
Let me also bring up, and this will be a minor spoiler, if you have not seen Far From Home. But in Far From Home, the very end post-credit scene, J. Jonah Jameson comes on the screen in the middle of New York City, the big screen that they have, and J.K. Simmons is back as J. Jonah Jameson in the Holland universe, but is most recognized from the Maguire universe. So, we already had a little hint, a little sprinkle of, wait a minute, what's going on here? You have an actor from another universe coming into this universe. So haven't they already started their ambitious path, in a way? Because you already brought back an actor from the Maguire universe.
Yeah, but that means nothing. Like, let's be honest, actors return to franchises that they've done before to play a role again.
So, anyway, we'll see what happens. The funny part is, if everything was normal, this movie would have already had a trailer out by now. We would probably even be getting the second trailer, or the official trailer, during the Super Bowl tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We probably would have got the teaser back in December. If you go by the marketing that they had for Homecoming and Far From Home, we would have probably got another trailer this weekend. And we would have probably got more confirmation on the story. Probably saw Jamie Foxx, Alfred Molina, and maybe the ending of the trailer would have shown, you would have thought it was Tom Holland with the Spider-Man suit on. They would have pulled the mask off, and it would have been Tobey Maguire. Mm-hmm. Or Andrew Garfield.
Right.
And that would have been the ending of the trailer. Like, coming soon. And it would have been like,
right.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing is, like, when you think about that, just think about that scene when you have three Spider-Men next to each other and they do that meme where they're all pointing at each other and then they all rip their hand, the masks off and just go like, who are you? And they're just going like, I'm Spider-Man. It's like, no, I'm Spider-Man. And they just do that around and then finally somebody's like, okay, what's your real name? Peter Parker. And he's like, no, I'm Peter Parker. Because then they get to do it twice. And, of course, if there's a joke, do it again, and then run it into the ground. So, legitimately, that should be a scene in a Spider-Verse movie is where everyone just goes like, I'm Peter Parker. No, I'm Peter Parker. After they've already done that, saying that they're Spider-Man. And that would be ambitious there. If you actually get the people who are the titular characters to come back, to be there, to do everything, then yeah, that works.
What about, let me just ask real quick before we end it here. What about the minor characters, when they say they're going to bring back Kirsten Dunst and Emma Stone? Do you care? Do you want to see them back? Because technically Emma Stone died in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So, what would her role be if she is back?
I mean, you bring them back as those characters because think about it this way. It doesn't really matter in the long run. It doesn't because the biggest thing about this is that they are the sprinkles on the donut. They're not the donut. Like the donut, what you want, that Krispy Kreme hot sign just came on donut is all three Spider-Man all together. The sprinkles on top of it are just, whatever it is. But it's like, my eating metaphor aside, they are accents onto the story. They are not the story itself. Unless you write the story around somehow, all the love interests came together and all that. Well, but that's not ambitious.
You see, I don't mind them coming back. I think with Kirsten Dunst and Mary Jane, I want to see where after Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, I do want to see where their relationship is at now. Because obviously in the comics, Peter and Mary Jane do get married. And that was hinted at in Spider-Man 3. He was going to propose, and that didn't go the way he planned. So I want to see, are Mary Jane and Peter married now? I mean, that was the original idea for Spider-Man 4. That never got made, and they rebooted it with The Amazing Spider-Man. So this is their opportunity to say, this is where Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst's Peter and MJ are now.
Right, and I think that's good, and that is how you build up this ambitiousness for that, but that ambitiousness means nothing unless you have Tobey and Andrew.
And then with Emma Stone, the one great thing about the Amazing Spider-Man films was Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so my question would be, so if you do bring her back, even though she died in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is this where you're going to say, with MJ, she's going to be married to Peter, we're going to see that happy ending, whatever. But with Emma Stone, she's not going to come back as just the girlfriend. She's going to be Spider-Gwen. From another universe.
That would actually be a lot. That would be pretty cool. Like, honestly, Emma Stone as Spider-Gwen, that would be super cool. And that would help it. That would help. Now, that would immediately add into the ambitious part. I would be 100% down for that. What I think that they'll probably end up doing is if they do bring back Garfield and Emma Stone, and she is Emma from Garfield's universe, they'll probably, just to make things simpler, they'll probably have the time hole rift happen during the Electro fight before she dies. And then that's what it will be. Like, a giant wormhole will open, both of them, somehow, all three will get through the wormhole, and then, during the fight, and then Tom Holland will show up in a Spider-Man costume. He's like, what's going on? I'm fighting you, and there's another Spider-Man here, and I don't know what's going on. I would assume that would be how they would introduce that.
Maybe. I mean, I can, like I said, I can see them opening up another wormhole or universe, and you see Emma Stone come through, and she's wearing the Spider-Gwen outfit. She takes off the mask, and there she is. And you go, oh. And Andrew Garfield is there. He looks at her, but she's like, I don't know you.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing about what I would want is I really liked the dynamic between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone.
Because you can be like in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that Gwen said, no, my Peter died in my universe.
Mm-hmm.
So Andrew can be like, well, you died in my universe, and she can be like, well, you died in my universe. So
yeah, I think we always know that Gwen Stacy is gonna die. That's kind of other than in Spider-Gwen or in the the Tobey Maguire trilogy. She dies. That's her big thing. She dies.
They should have never had her in the Spider-Man Tobey Maguire trilogy.
Right, but so for me, it's always a thing of like, okay, well, the Amazing Spider-Man series was all about that whole thing.
That relationship.
That's the relationship that was the crux of it. And realistically, I liked that better than I did the Tobey Maguire.
I agree with you on that. I like the relationship of Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield's Peter and Gwen more so than the Tobey and Kirsten Peter and MJ relationship. And that was the one weakness of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy was, yeah, the first one they worked out pretty good together, but after that it was like, alright, they're just doing it because they have to, not because there's really that chemistry there.
Yeah, I think
but Emma and Andrew were in a relationship, and you really saw that chemistry.
Yeah, and I think one of the bigger things for the story is that also, how they portrayed Spider-Man and Peter Parker in the two as Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. He was portrayed as smart in both. Mm-hmm. Tobey Maguire was a dork. Like, he was everything. He had all the bad stereotypes of a nerd. And that's what he was. You're smart, but you can't amount to anything. You can't talk to people. You're socially awkward and all this other stuff. There was no upside to him other than him being Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, he was a competent human being. Like, he could go around, he was smart and a nerd, but he wasn't like a dork. He was actually a competent person outside of it. So it's like, he was actually succeeding, and that's the whole thing about Peter Parker, is that is Peter Parker succeeds as Spider-Man and also as himself. It's not something where it's kind of like Batman, where Batman succeeds, but Bruce Wayne is kind of just there. Bruce Wayne as a character, he never got over the fact that his parents were killed, and he never emotionally kind of goes on from that. Only Batman does. Only Batman has kind of the emotional arcs. Bruce Wayne is just there as a mask, really, to put on for that. So that's why I really like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and the relationship with Gwen. And that's the relationship that I would put over that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, we'll see what happens. I mean, we were supposed to get maybe a teaser at the end of last year, but that never happened. So, I think they're not going to confirm anything like Toby or Andrew until maybe a trailer. And maybe not even then. They might really want to be like, depending on how much they're actually in the movie, they might be like, we're going to hold off. Let you think, let you speculate, let you ponder, let you dream in your head if they're coming back or not. But until you see the movie, you're not going to know. I mean, I actually wouldn't mind that either. Because I think if you show it in the trailer, you're like, they're going to be happy, but then they're going to be like, when the movie comes out, they're going to be like, oh, we already know. We already see him.
Yeah, but I would say this. If the ambitiousness is coming from the fact that we're having all three Spider-Men back together on the same screen, it better not just be cameos. Like, they basically need to be, like, the three, like, if you're going to have the movie poster, it needs to be, like, all three of them on that poster. All in 3 different Spider-Man suits. Because, I'm sorry, you get back to this comment that's made, and it's going like, you wrote the check. Now cash it. And I don't think you will. And always remember to like, comment, subscribe wherever you are. The podcast is available wherever you want to get your podcast. If we are not there, let us know, and we will get there. Remember to like our Facebook page, Attack Bat Productions. Thanks for listening, everyone.